Hi everybody, I'm DJ Sixsmith. You're watching The Sit Down. Orange is the New Black. It's final season. It's been incredible. Diane Guerrero is here with us.
Hello.
What's going on? Nice to meet you. Swivel on back.
Yeah. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. This was quite a season. I'm 10 episodes in, but I've seen your whole arc in this one, so
Yeah.
I'm sure it was pretty fascinating for you just for a number of different reasons. So what was it like to have this thing finally come to an end?
Man, well, 7 years is a long time to be part of. I mean, it was my first show. Like everybody will tell you, like they came in, it was such a large cast that we came in thinking, we're gonna do 2 episodes, 4 episodes, and then when it stretches out and they keep inviting you back every year, it's just, it's amazing. I sit back in awe and say like, wow, what an opportunity this gave me. Like how I grew so much from this. Still the same person, but different. I think, a little wiser, maybe. Certainly more empowered, more emboldened, and the show gave me a lot of that.
Yeah, because you think about your life, it's like late 20s, early 30s, and then just 7 years on this beast of a show. Like, there's a lot going on here.
It's a lot going on. I mean, I was like, I was like bartending, when I got this show, and I was like running around New York City, kind of giving people knocking on every door, handing out my resume, like totally making up skills. I was like, I can tap dance while holding water.
Like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, right. I'm like, I have all these skills. I can do an accent. At one point, I had cutting a rug as one of my skills, and so getting a show that ultimately changed the way we watch television, or had a part in changing the way we watch television, and also changing the way we look at the criminal legal system, especially as it affects women and women of color in particular.
Definitely. So take me back 7 years. What do you remember about that audition process and just being introduced to the show for the first time?
Well, I get a call to go to the audition. They tell me, don't wear any makeup, just go kind of like you rolled out of bed. I'm like, okay, that for me, that was, I think, the first thing that told me I want to do this, because it was so nerve-wracking to like get ready and like what do you wear, and you're all in a profession that tends to be very superficial and like how you look, and you have to look this or that way. It was nice to go in and them telling you, hey, we want you to be yourself.
No BS.
No BS.
Yeah.
Just be yourself. And so how do you do that? Okay, I walked in, I did my lines, and I don't know, I guess in retrospect I remember feeling hopeful. Also just like, what is this? It's for a web series? No idea what it would what it would become. And so I remember going in there and feeling good about my audition. And as an actor, I'm sure you hear a lot of people like, it's hard to feel good in auditions because it's just such a weird process, but I felt good about it enough. I heard about it later on though, like I had put it away. I had thrown out the sides. I'm like, I'm not thinking about this anymore. And then I got a call saying that I got the show, and it was like probably the best moment of my life.
Wow.
As a person
that
a big deal. Wasn't getting any work and nobody was even letting in the room, it was a great opportunity for me.
You go from making up skills to being on Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
That's a game changer.
Exactly. It was a game changer for me, and just and seeing what the show has meant for so many people, what it's done for representation of women and of people of color. It's been wonderful to be a part of that. It awakened.
Yeah,
is that a real word?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It awakened the side of me that I always had. I went to school for political science, and once there, it was hard to have the kind of points of view that I had. I was very progressive, or very empathetic towards human beings, and I remember just getting shut down in class because you were dealing with probably some of the politicians that are in office right now who are just like shutting down any type of like humane talk, or like when it comes to people's human rights. So that was really hard for me to be in that environment, and so I always wanted to be an actor, and I took that chance, and to now being part of a show that highlights and focuses on real human issues has been incredible. And it's sort of, like I said, going back to the awakened, it awakened something very special inside me that really defines me, and that is the fight for equality, the fight for justice, and everything that to be right in this world.
And it's one thing to believe that, but it's another thing to speak on that. And you mentioned there are people that will try and suppress that, but those are people that are afraid, you know, of something new and different. And especially being a woman of color, like that is the biggest fear of some of these white men in office. So I'm sure you've dealt with that, whether it's the show or just in your life in general. So it's definitely an interesting time with all of that.
Oh, for sure. And like, you know, at first when even when I first got on the show, around that time when you were talking about these issues, and especially when I came out with my personal story and first started talking about immigration, I mean, it was really hard.
I'm sure it was scary.
It was scary. Yeah. Nobody was really, I mean, people were talking about it, but people weren't being that open, being in the era of social media and people like commenting and saying some really nasty things. It was like really hard, and you didn't have even the support of people who were mildly considerate when it came to immigration laws, or maybe we didn't know too much about the immigration system in this country. And so it was scary to go up there and say, hey, I'm not a politician, I'm an actor. I'm an actor on a serious show, but I'm also a woman who has experienced this firsthand. And so now getting to the 7th season of Orange and actually getting to talk about something that I'm so passionate about, it makes me so happy, and it makes me believe in the power of change and the power of you finish that for me. The power of, it makes me believe that we can change things.
Absolutely, and the system's just not going to stay the same way.
Right.
And that's really the biggest thing. And for you personally, like you've spoken on what happened to your family, and it's one thing for your family to get deported. It's another thing to process that, deal with it, and then speak on it. So how did you kind of go through the different patterns of emotion there?
I think it has always been something that has stuck with me, obviously. I mean, that trauma that you go through from family separation is so intense. I mean, you're living with it day to day. You know, you're living with that shame, you're living with that heartache, you're living with, kind of walking as if everything's going to be taken away, you know. And so being a part of this show really, and seeing that so many other of my castmates and the writers and the showrunner were so outspoken and unapologetically so, it really inspired me. And once you're seeing people speak their truth, it's like it's hard not to want to speak yours, and you're just like, damn, there has to be a moment where I don't feel ashamed anymore.
And just to be yourself.
And just to be yourself.
Who you are,
and this is who I am. And I want to get to a place where we all can be ourselves. You know, I don't want to be feeling like I have so much weight on my shoulders. I need to share this with some people. And guess what? This is on all of our shoulders, right? Because this is our country. This is happening to our families. And anybody who doesn't see it that way isn't interested in the well-being of this country.
Yeah. No doubt. And it's also, like you said, being on the right side of history, too, because when we have some time from this and we think about kids in cages and we think about the Black Lives Matter movement, like, we're going to put it in perspective. And this show has always hit it on the head. You know, this show has always been in the moment, and this show nails it. When did you start to sense that this was going to be a show that was greater than entertainment, greater than binge watching, but actually going to talk about real stuff and totally knock it out of the park?
I mean, I think immediately when I walked into that cafeteria. And
you're like, oh wow.
Yeah, and granted, this is make believe, but our sets are real. The food that we're passing out in the cafeteria, those smells, our clothing, our language, all that is very heavy. I mean, you're living it, and so I just remember being like, and then obviously having feelings bringing me back to my community. My parents, seeing kids having to go into the criminal legal system, like, it was all very real for me just then. The minute I walked in, it wasn't like this kind of like, this is Hollywood, and like now you're special because you're wearing, you're in the makeup chair or you're on a show. It was like, it was gritty from the get.
Has your family seen the show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have they seen the new season also?
I don't think they've seen the new season. I know that. I think they're probably waiting to watch it with me, but I'm wondering if they're kind of like nervous about seeing it.
Have you given them a little insight on what it's going to be like? Do they have any idea what your character kind of goes through?
Yeah, they know. Yeah, they know. And my parents are like obviously still affected by this too, and are very heartbroken by the fact that we were literally separated, and they cannot come here and see me, and so that's made it obviously strain the relationship. But my parents are like, yo. Yeah, you gotta, think about, my dad was like, think about that moment when you went to see us in prison. And I'm like, Dad, I don't want you to think about that moment. He was like, no, that's going to make a performance good. And so, and I'm giving my dad all of a sudden an accent, which he does have, but he didn't say that. But that's what he meant. He's like, use everything that we've given you. Use our experience. And I know for a fact that me being on this show, talking about what I'm talking about, coming out and sharing our story has really redeemed them in some way, because it wasn't fair to be ripped away from your children like that. It wasn't fair to be ripped away from the lives that we knew. So I know that they're proud of me, and my dad's really happy that I'm putting my political science degree
that's
to
pretty
good
cool,
use. I mean, he always wanted me to be a lawyer, or like, be a serious woman, a sober woman, a poised woman. And so here I am.
Yeah, making Dad proud.
Yeah.
I like it. So what were the challenges of playing Meritza when you think about her story, her arc?
I mean, I think it was hard to keep her light, in moments of such darkness. It was difficult to sort of always, kind of bring the jokey side to her, and at the same time bring this like incredible sadness to her life. I mean, here's this girl who kind of like is living in La La Land, where she is a product of our of this system. Right? She's a product of like those barriers that were put in place for her family, for her community, not to advance, and that put her in here to let her know, the system let her know that she wasn't worthy enough, that she wasn't loved enough for her to make better decisions, or to be that desperate. So it was difficult finding that balance, because they always gave me kind of like, really funky lines that I had to like sort of finagle in like a very tragic way, but also make them funny. But looking back and thinking about who I am, that's kind of who I am.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So thinking about some of the other stuff you've done, Jane the Virgin's coming to an end.
Yeah.
And that's another one that's...
It came to an end.
Yeah, it came to an end,
yesterday,
right?
Yeah.
So when you think about that show, what do you think the lasting impact of that will be?
I mean, to see a Latinx family on TV being represented in its full glory, not specific to anything, but just living an American life just like anybody else. I mean, groundbreaking. I give thanks for that show too, because of what it did for our community, but also that it brought into people's homes sort of like, hey, if you see a brown person, it's not what you have been taught to know about them. They are really like you and I.
Right, just break all those stereotypes.
Yes,
yeah.
Their values are the same as yours. They care about family, they care about love, they care about succeeding just like you do. And so, and that was really special to be a part of that.
Definitely, even Superior Donuts for the short run that it had,
I know, right?
That was a fun show,
That was another show where my character was like all like high and mighty, like talking about justice and equality and healthy food and living for all.
Definitely. So you mentioned the fact that there's going to be a new generation seeing brown faces, women in leadership roles. Who are some of the people that you looked to early on? Because there may not have been the same faces, but who were the people that kind of sparked your interest early on?
when I was a kid in high school, John Leguizamo was a huge impact in my life. Rosario Dawson. I saw these folks and I was just like, damn, they're just like me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rosario's killing it, right? You're like, okay.
You know, and I knew, I'm like, these are the, and I love it that I've always responded to people and their art when it has been about something. And John was like that when he came out, and still is, and so was Rosario. And I'm like, okay, so I gravitated to the right people, and now I can see why I've made some of the choices that I've made, and it's just, you know, it's really refreshing, and to realize that you haven't changed that much, that you were always on the right track, that you were nobody's fool, you know, and that you had it right all along.
Have you met those guys?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah? Have you told them that?
No.
Just something you keep inside.
I try to, but I'm too overwhelmed with emotion.
It's like word vomit if it were to come
Yeah,
out.
and they're just like, okay.
We've heard this before.
Yeah. It's all of that, but yeah.
So I think we live in a really interesting time because, like you, people can be fully transparent, and then other people kind of cower to the corner and don't want to admit certain things. So for people who do want to change, people who do want to have these conversations, how do they get started? What are little things people can do in their lives?
Well, look, I mean, it's just look inside yourself. I mean, think about the person that you are. Are you a person that believes in humanity? I would just say start there.
It's a good story.
You know what I mean? If you believe in love, start there. And start shaking those voices of telling you that change cannot be achieved, that you are naive for believing in a better world, that you are naive for wanting healthcare for all, that you are naive for wanting a better education system, that you are naive for having comprehensive immigration laws, because these things can be achieved. And what you do is you see how it mostly affects you, and then you align yourself with people who are also feeling the same way. That's the beauty about what is going on right now. There are so many people that are doing the work. So it's not, you're not going to start from scratch.
Right, you're not alone.
No, you're not alone. You're going to join someone who's in this fight with you. And if you do that, you're going to learn so much. You're going to be on the right track, and then you'll find your people, and that's how you get started.
Yeah, look inside yourself, and then also look outside of yourself and realize it's not just you in this life.
Exactly.
Well, Diane, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks
so much. Really great to have you.
Yeah.
Orange is the New Black, season 7 on Netflix now. It's Diane. I'm DJ.
This
See you next
chair
time.
just keeps
Here on the
going.
sit down. Swivel it out.